Hey friends, it's Laurie. Thanks for stopping by. Let's go make something. To start my Snowman Gnome, I'm using one of the round gift boxes from the Dollar Tree, and I'm removing the bow and the ribbon. To give it a little weight so that it won't tip over, I'm just using some of these rocks that I found at the Dollar Tree, but you can use anything that you have on hand. I'm running a bead of glue around the top edge and then replacing the cover. I'm using a white Dollar Tree sock big enough to cover the gnome's body. When I'm done, I'm cutting the top of the sock into 2 pieces and I'm tying it into a knot. To give the snowman's body some texture, I'm using one of the microfiber dusting pads. I'm using my hot glue gun and I'm attaching it around the base of the gnome's body. To make the gnome's beard, I'm using one of the Dollar Tree mop heads. Using my scissors, I'm cutting 26 individual pieces. Once they're all cut, I'm then going to lie each of them side by side. When I'm done, I'm folding the end piece over to find my middle. When I'm finished, I'm then running a bead of glue down the center. I'm then using a chenille stem, and it doesn't matter what color. I'm going to take it and I'm going to place it into the glue. Once I'm done, I'm then folding one side of the mop onto the other. To fluff out my snowman's beard, I'm unraveling each of the mop pieces. Once you're done, and somehow along the way, the footage of me attaching the beard, poof, it has disappeared. So I'm going to show you how I attached one of these beards to one of the other gnomes that I made, and so with the exception of the colors being a little different, it's the exact same way. I cut off the excess 2 chenille stems and I placed some hot glue along the top of the beard. Once I was done, I placed it against the gnome's body and I gave it a haircut. For the nose, if you have any type of carrot that would work, I would use that. For me, I'm using one of the Dollar Tree table tennis balls. I'm using my orange acrylic paint and I'm going to end up giving it 2 coats. It's so funny because my husband and my daughter both asked me, "Why are you painting it orange?" And I thought, isn't that the color of a snowman's nose? Once the nose is dry, I'm attaching it by placing a dot of hot glue just above the center of the beard. I put the nose in place and just held it there a quick second until it set up. To make the gnome's hat, I'm using a black sock and 2 of the bendable rollers from the Dollar Tree. You're going to need some stuffing for your hat, and I'm recycling some from a pillow. I'm turning my sock inside out. Using my glue gun, I'm running 2 beads of hot glue on the top of my sock, and then I'm attaching my bendable rollers. Once they set up, I'm then turning the sock back to the right side, and it might take you a second to do this, but just kind of bend the rollers as you're turning the sock inside out. With that complete, I'm now stuffing my snowman's hat. I kept stuffing it until I came to just a bit past the heel. Now that my sock hat is completely stuffed, to attach it, I'm placing it over the top of the gnome, and using my hot glue gun, I'm attaching the front to the nose. And once again, attaching my hat, I'm using my glue gun and I'm pulling down on the back, and I'm also pulling down on both of the sides. I want to round off the front of the hat, so I'm adding just a bit more of the stuffing. I have a button collection and I picked out 4 that I'm going to use as accents. I'm also using this really pretty snowflake ornament from the Dollar Tree. I snipped off the hanger end and I removed the little crystal from the center. I then replaced it with one of the buttons. I placed the other 3 buttons on his beard to find my placement, and then using my glue gun, I attached them in place. To give my hat a little personality, I'm finding where I attached the bendable rollers, and then I'm just bending the hat at an angle. To add my snowflake accent, I'm placing a dot of hot glue on the hat and then securing it into place. I wanted to give my snowman 2 arms, so I went outside and I snipped off 2 little branches. To attach them, I used my scissors to make a hole into the cardboard base and then secured the arm with my glue gun. After my first arm was in place, I then did the exact same thing for the second. What's a snowman without a broom? I'm going to make him one with this Dollar Tree raffia and a straight 4-inch long stick. I opened up the raffia and I cut it in half. I then took one of the halves and folded it into 4ths. I then stuck the stick through the center and used a piece of raffia to tie them together. I snipped away some of the messy edges and I gave the bottom a haircut. I'm using some of the buffalo check Dollar Tree ribbon and I'm attaching a piece to cover where I tied on the raffia. I used my hot glue gun to secure it into place. When I was done, I used the same ribbon. I made a simple bow and then using my hot glue gun, I attached it to the broom. I'm using one of the snowflakes from this pack I bought at the Dollar Tree. I removed the little silver insert and I attached it to my broom as an accent. Adding the broom to my snowman's hand is as easy as using a little hot glue. I had some little birds in my stash, so I decided to add those as an accent as well. I attached this little blue one to the top of his broom and the red cardinal to the top of his stick hand. With that, my sweet snowman gnome is complete. For my 2 snowmen, I'm using 2 2.5 inch by 2.5 inch blocks of wood. One measures 7 inches in height and the other 9.5. I cut 2 thin pieces of wood for the brim, one at 7 inches and the other at 5.5. And if you don't have this on hand, you can always use some cardboard. I used a piece of sandpaper to smooth down any of the rough edges. I decided where I wanted to place the brim, and on the large piece, I marked down 2.5 inches from the top. For the smaller piece of wood, I did the same thing, but this time I marked it 1.5 inches down from the top. Now that my pieces are marked, I'm going to use my white acrylic paint and paint the bases of the snowmen. When I'm finished with my white, I'm then going to use my black acrylic paint to paint both pieces of the brim. While I'm painting them, I'm making sure that I paint both sides. The STARBOND glue company reached out to me and they kindly sent me some of their glue samples to try out, and I thought they would be perfect for this project. They come in different colors and consistencies, and the one thing I loved about their product is the interchangeable nozzles and being able to replace the original cap so the glue never dries out. These are all instant adhesive like a super glue, and for this project I'm using the clear thick, the medium black, and the high performance white. STARBOND also gave me a 10% off code to use on all their products, and I will link that below in my description. To attach both of my brims, I'm using the STARBOND medium thick black glue. When using a glue product, I make sure to have proper ventilation, and I'm applying this onto my white block. Once I'm done applying the glue, I then attach my brim. When I was done, I attached my second brim, and both pieces had set up in about a minute. With the pieces glued into place, I'm now using my black acrylic paint, and I'm painting the top half of the snowman hats. I'm going to be adding 2 different faces to my snowman, and I found this wood value pack at the Dollar Tree. It is loaded with an assortment of all different types of wood pieces. So I'm going to be using 2 of the little wooden circles that I found inside. I painted both of them black, and now I'm using my white STARBOND glue, and I'm attaching them to my snowman. Once again, these set in place in under a minute. To give my snowman an expression, I'm now going to add a dot of white glue onto each of his eyes. For my smaller snowman, I'm using a pencil to make 2 eyes, and I'm following the lines with my paintbrush, and I'm also adding eyelashes to the corners. To make a carrot nose for each, I was trying to use something that I had on hand, and I decided to use 4 of these tumbling blocks. This was the perfect opportunity for me to try the STARBOND thick permanent adhesive. I placed a line of glue on one of the Jenga blocks, and then I attached the other to it. And once again, being an instant adhesive, it literally set up in seconds. Here's where I had to use my muscles. I took a piece of sandpaper and I rounded down all of the edges, and then I also rounded down one end of my block. We're turning them into carrot noses, and you're going to attach them to the body, so you want to make sure to leave one of the ends flat. With them both finally all sanded down and now kind of resembling carrots, I'm going to use my orange acrylic paint, and I'm going to give each of them 2 coats. With both of my noses dry, and to add them to my snowman's face, I'm using the white STARBOND instant adhesive glue. This will be the real test to see if this glue holds these noses in place. And I double checked, and guess what? Within a minute, the nose were attached in place and they are not going anywhere. So the glue definitely works. To finish up my snowman faces, I made a pencil half smile, and then I copied over it with my Sharpie. I gave my larger snowman some eyebrows, and using the end of my paintbrush, I gave him a simple mouth. I'm going to embellish the snowman hats, but they just looked kind of plain to me, so I decided to use some of my white acrylic paint and just splatter them and give them a snowy look. I put a small amount of paint on the end of one of my paintbrushes, and then I tapped away until I had the perfect amount of snow. To embellish the hats, I'm using a blue and black gingham ribbon from the Dollar Tree. I'm using the blue ribbon on my smaller snowman. I'm cutting it to size, and then I'm hot gluing it into place. When I was done adding the blue ribbon to my smaller snowman, I then followed the exact same instructions and used the black and white ribbon for my larger snowman. I'm using 2 of these felt snowflakes from my last project, and I'm hot gluing one on each of the snowman's hats. I'm going to give each of them a little scarf using 2 pieces of ribbon that I had on hand. I folded my blue snowflake ribbon in half, I wrapped it around my snowman, and then I tied a little knot. I then did the exact same thing with my buffalo check ribbon. I folded it in half and then I tied it around my snowman. I'm using some buttons from my button jar to finish up my snowman, and I'm attaching them with the STARBOND thick clear glue. I was very pleased with the STARBOND glue and definitely something I will be using in the future. And if you want to give it a try and get 10% off, don't forget to check the link below in my description. Now with the buttons all glued into place, these snowmen are ready to chill. This is a quick and easy Dollar Tree snowman project. I'm using a glass jar with a lid and one of the snowman hats. I removed the lid from the jar and then all the embellishments that were on the hat. Using my hot glue gun, I attached the hat to the jar lid. I used my black acrylic paint and I painted the hat and the outside part of the jar lid. While the hat's drying, I'm adding on my snowman face. I'm using this Dollar Tree carrot that I had in my stash. If you don't have one, you can always just paint one onto the jar. I'm using the end of my paintbrush and some black acrylic paint and making 2 small dots for eyes. To add my carrot nose, I'm placing a dot of hot glue under the eyes and then attaching it. I'm using my Sharpie and I'm giving my snowman a side smile. With my snowman hat dry, I'm adding on a buffalo check ribbon accent. Once my ribbon is cut, I'm then hot gluing it to the hat. Once I'm done, I'm attaching the lid back onto the jar, and I cut an extra piece of ribbon as an accent. I hot glued it into place and I added one of the white snowflakes as an accent. Using the same buffalo check ribbon, instead of giving him a scarf, this time I'm going to make a simple bow and give him a bow tie. To attach it, I just hot glued it into place. Your snowman jar is complete and ready to use. You can place candy inside or some cotton balls, but what I'm going to do is use some of the white Dollar Tree sand. To finish my project, all I did was replace his hat. Thanks so much for stopping by and hanging out with me. Please give this video a thumbs up. If you're new, hit that subscribe button and I will see you soon. Bye everybody!